Hi, Woody.
Hey, Wood. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Savannah.
Good evening.
Enjoying the rain?
Yes, it was such a letdown after the last couple of days.
Crazy.
I keep
So
telling
excited to just like store all the jackets and things.
well, we're not out of the drought yet. It's probably not a bad thing.
No, yeah, I agree.
Hi, Kevin.
Hello.
Hi, Kevin.
Hey,
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Can't complain enough.
I'm gonna go on audio or video mute for a minute.
Feel free. Everybody's having the last little bits of their dinner.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Or cleaning it out of their teeth. One or the other.
Even a better reason to turn off the video.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, let me just do that here.
So
this is a whole different experience for me. In Brazil, we don't eat early.
Oh, right.
yeah, in the United States, we eat early.
Yeah, another day I was invited for a dinner at 5:30. I didn't even know like what is supposed to be.
That's called an elderly dinner.
Yeah.
No, and that's the irony. Like the two people who invited me were younger than I. I was like, I don't understand.
That does make it more surprising.
Hey, Marty.
Hi, how are you?
Marty.
Good.
Hey,
How are
Marty.
you?
Good, thanks.
We've been debating dinner plans. Have you eaten? Will you eat?
You're making me hungry.
So I'm going to give us 1 or 2 more minutes since I think everybody except Janet is going to be here close to on time. So Robin is in Europe, so she's not around, and Dave is going to attend the planning board meeting for the first few minutes while they address the citizens petitions, and then we'll come over to join us. So we're still a little bit behind the 8 ball in terms of the amount of information we have. So hopefully more will arrive tomorrow night. So why don't we get started since we have more than a quorum? So I'll just do roll. Cam,
Yeah.
Simone,
Here.
Mish, Marty,
Here.
Kevin,
Here.
and I'm here. Great. So we're gonna start the process of voting on articles tonight. I will tell you that about maybe a half or 2/3 of the articles that require dollar numbers from the town are not yet available because the select board is voting at their meeting tomorrow noon, hopefully on the rest of the warrant articles. So I thought we could go through what we can, and get as much done in anticipation of or in preparation for for Wednesday night, and then get through as much as of the rest of it as we can Wednesday. The one wild card here is that the bids on the turf field will not be opened until the 27th. So that's Thursday, I think, and we won't so we won't really be able to address the turf field. Although, Kim, I'm a little uncertain. Did capital budget vote on the turf field already, or are they waiting for the actual numbers?
I think we were waiting on the numbers, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, that's my sense. So one of the contentious capital items, which was the fueling station, has been put off to next year because there's some problem with the stormwater drainage bylaw that was passed, and that needs to be corrected before the fueling island can be addressed. So that's off the warrant, and most of the other things, I think, are things that we are they're relatively clear to us. I thought we could take this somewhat out of order. I'll read to you the articles that I think we can vote on tonight. Article 1 is here act on committee reports. Article 3 is authorize the amount for the revolving funds. That is there's one kind of provision here, and that is that the town council is looking at the revolving fund for the Board of Health, the modification of the revolving fund for the Board of Health, and that we haven't gotten final say on that, but there is a number that's in place anyway. We can go through all the capital budget except for the turf field, which is capital budget is Article 5. The turf field is Article 6 to appropriate the regional school district capital expenses. Then we honestly have to skip down, excuse me, to Article 16, which is establish and authorize an amount for the revolving fund for the cemetery commission, and 17 is establish and authorize an amount for the revolving fund for stormwater tree mitigation. Then we can do 19 through 23, which are the planning board articles. And there's Article 24 is to accept the Prudent Investor Act. Article 25 and 26 are from the Board of Assessors, and they're to adopt 2 clauses in the HERO Act. And then the planning board has asked to weigh in on Article 28, which is the Tom Hurst citizens petition to amend the schedule of use table. So we'll do that Wednesday night, but we can do Article 29 and Article 30, which is Rick's petition.
29 is withdrawn.
Well, so it turns out, I didn't know this obviously, but it turns out that you can't withdraw a citizen's petition once it's submitted as an article. So we have to vote to withdraw it.
Oh,
So it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to go to a at least I'm not sure, but I don't think it has to go to a vote of town meeting, but we have to recommend that the article be withdrawn.
okay.
Kim, do you know if it has to be voted on at town meeting?
I believe it does, yeah.
All right.
Because they're the decisive. We really only make recommendations and not make decisions. So I think the logic of that means town meeting has to decide.
All right, great.
Woody, one other thing I really liked the way Peter organized this was to fill in all our sort of contributions to the Blue Book with those articles and review them at exactly the same time as we review the entire article. So that gives having the Blue Book entry gives us all a refresher on exactly what the details of this are in layman's terms, and that makes it easier for us to vote on them.
Yes. So I have the articles of the warrant that I got from Michael, and I can share screen on that, I think. So that
You emailed it to us as well, didn't you?
I emailed it as well. Would it be helpful to people to share it, or do you want to just refer to your own copy?
It's probably easier to share it.
Yeah, if you could share it, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Can people see that?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So begin then. And Simone will we'll go through. I don't know whether you or Kevin is taking minutes, but we need to record the vote on
Yeah,
these.
I'm taking, like, I'm getting the closed caption, so everything will be recorded.
Great.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you, Simone. But,
Yeah,
on
just
that,
keep in mind that I will not be here on Wednesday, so I'll do
okay,
it today.
all right. Maybe you can tell me what you do then, but tomorrow or something if I get together. But Woody, did you ever hear feedback on that question about just noting the times on the agenda coupled with the recording and serving as the minutes?
I was told that was not adequate, and that the other committees don't do that. That they may be way behind on their minutes, but they're expected to take full minutes.
Okay. All right.
The bureaucracy hasn't caught up with the digital age yet, Kevin.
I think that's exactly right.
Well, I mean,
That's
nothing. Yeah.
That's why I hired ChatGPT.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So Article 1 is to hear and act on various reports of the various committees as contained in the printed 2024 annual report, and B, any other reports submitted to the voters of the town committees. The wording that we have used in the past on this is when we vote affirmatively is that the warrant committee recommends that the various reports be called over by the clerk so that any voter who desires to object to any of the reports may so signify. The warrant committee further recommends that if there are no objections, the reports as printed in the town report and in this blue book be accepted and placed on file. So I guess we need a motion to recommend that the reports be called over by the clerk so that any voter who desires to object to any of the reports may so signify. Sorry, the motion is to hear and act on the various reports of the various committees, A, as contained in the printed 2023 annual report, and B, any other reports submitted by the voters by the town committees. So we need a motion to approve that and then a second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second,
Okay, so Kevin,
Oh, approve.
Cam,
Approve.
Simone,
approve.
Marty,
Approve.
me, Mish, you're muted.
Mitch, I think you are on mute. We can't hear your voice. We can't hear you.
Yeah.
Nope.
Your microphone must not be working.
Just put your hand up like this.
Yes, I'll accept that.
Visual affirmation.
Janet, are you able to
Yes.
vote?
Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yes,
Okay.
perfect.
Yes.
Thank-
Thank you.
And I vote yes. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7-0.
Mhm.
Terrific. Okay. The next is Article 3, which is to authorize amounts for revolving funds. And the article is to see if the town will vote pursuant to Section 516 finances of the general bylaws of the town of Dover to authorize the use of revolving fund accounts for the following boards or departments, and that unless otherwise amended by the Board of Selectmen and warrant committees, each account shall not exceed the following amounts for fiscal year 2026. Building Department gas, plumbing, and wiring inspectors, 68,900. Board of Health inspections and permitting, 25,000. Library materials replacement, 5,000. Council on Aging senior activities and transportation, 40,000. And recycling committee, 4,000. Now, there's also Department of Public Works at the transfer station, maintenance, repair, and replacement of facilities and equipment for the transfer station, 35,000. And the revolving fund for the community center was established last year. Costs associated with operating the community center and maintenance improvement projects for the facility, 25,000. Or take any other action relative thereto. I will tell you that the only provision I have here is that the Board of Health inspections and permitting, 25,000, is highlighted in gray with a note to be reviewed by town council. The reason is that the Board of Health is also establishing a revolving fund, which I believe is distinct from this one, which is inspections and permitting. The second revolving fund will deal with funds generated by the new nurse that's been hired, who's going to be expected to do vaccine clinics, both the flu vaccine and COVID vaccine clinics they've done in the past at the town garage. But she'll also do some administer vaccines to some shut-ins who are unable to get out. And the Board of Health is going to be billing insurance for the vaccines. So the money that they generate for insurance is going to then go back to pay for the vaccines themselves. So that is not part of this article. That's a separate article. So I'm expecting that this will actually stand as it is. Any other questions about the other revolving funds or any discussion?
Just out of curiosity, the community center, how did they come up with this amount? And now that it has been further delayed, does it change anything or?
So I don't know exactly how the 25,000 was come up with. The expectation is that there will be some potentially for profit or other community groups that want to rent space in the community center for different activities, and in order to pay for the upkeep, the cleaning that generates, they'll be charging for the facility, and then that money will go into the revolving fund to support further activities.
Got it.
And the idea of the dollar numbers is putting a limit on how much these different units can actually retain to use for paid services. Anything over that, they then have to go to the Board of Selectmen and ask them for approval to do so. And then at the end of the year, any funds that are larger than these amounts, they go back to free cash.
Oh, I see. So we're not appropriating these funds. These are just the
No.
limits.
Yes, essentially that.
So a revolving fund specifically means that funds generated by some activity are then retained by the component, a portion of the town government that generates the funds.
Right.
Yep.
There's no, you'll notice that Parks and Rec is not part of this, and that's because Parks and Rec's revolving funds by statute, by Massachusetts general law, are considered separate and are untouchable.
Yeah.
These are all revolving funds established by the town.
Gotcha.
So a motion then is requested to see if the town will vote pursuant to section 516 finances of the general bylaws of the town of Dover to authorize the use of revolving fund accounts for the following boards or departments, and then unless otherwise amended by the Board of Selectmen and Warrant Committee, such accounts shall not exceed the following amounts of fiscal year 2026. And I won't read the amounts again, but they're part of they should be part of the motion. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. So Cam,
Aye.
Janet,
Yes.
Marty,
Yes.
Simone,
Yes.
Leash,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
all right. And I vote yes. So again, 7-0. Moving right along here. Okay, this is probably this, and I anticipate the Rick Garen's petition are probably going to be the longest ones of the night. And Article 5 is the capital budget. So Article 5 is appropriate the fiscal year 2026 capital budget to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate from available funds, borrow, or any combination of these methods, a sum of money for the various capital purposes listed below, to determine whether money shall be included in the tax levy, transferred from available funds, borrowed, or provided by any combination of these methods, or take any other action relative thereto. And Cam, I think do we have to vote on each expenditure independently, or can we list them and then vote?
I think it's just the one article. I think we can do it all as in one fell swoop.
Okay.
But we do have to go through and approve the write-ups that are associated with these, and they're all on the shared drive. I put them in there as well.
Yes. So do we approve the write-ups at the end, or?
No, I think historically we've had fire department. We have a description of the items, and then we vote. We discuss whether we can approve it, and so we approve the Blue Book entry at the same time, essentially.
Okay. And maybe.
So do we have to go out to the drive?
Yeah. So we go to the blue,
Would you,
but we
for the
don't
next,
have,
for
So
the next week, it might be smart for us just to insert the commentaries in there as well,
yeah,
and to put the Blue Book entries as we've got them, put them into this document, and then we can sort of get an overview of it much more easily.
okay.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. That's not what I want. So actually, does it make sense to do the to have
We can
someone-
probably approve the entire article now, and then insert that stuff over the next couple of days, and then approve those individually.
Okay.
That's probably the fastest way forward right now.
Yeah.
And Woody, just so you know, if you show view, you can see the table of contents. You can skip around it to the articles without
Yep.
scrolling.
Yep. Okay, can people see the article now?
Mhm.
So Cam, you're suggesting that we approve the article and then go back to do the
Blue book entry approvals later. And I think it'd be a lot easier just to have it written in the document itself so we don't have to go backwards and forwards. Ultimately, we have to come up with a document that we have to submit to the printer anyway. So we need to get it all together pretty soon.
Okay. All right, so I think I should at least read the amounts that are associated with these, even if we're not gonna vote individually on the different amounts.
Yeah, sure.
So for the fire department, there's $90,000 requested for engine one, which was the one that was authorized 2 years ago. It's has to do with changes in the charges for the engine for the I think 1.2 is already authorized, but this is 90,000 in additional charges. Engine 3 is 1.25 million. The radio systems, there's 41,650 for the fire department and 22,262 for the ambulances, ambulance service. For the police department, there's 130,000 requested for the two police cruisers. One will be I believe will be a hybrid car that the police chief himself will use, and one will be going to the fleet. Then there's written this down. I think it's 26,000 for the, or 29,000 for the fingerprint scanner, and the mobile cruiser radio was, I think, 13,000. Then for DPW, the six-wheel dump truck is 360K. The pickup truck with a plow spreader is 130K. There's a tractor with mower and plow, 60K. A tractor with mower, 45K. A pickup truck with a plow, 110,000. And as I said, the fuel station is deferred. The library HVAC is 250K. The elevator repair is 70K. There's 12K for the library kitchenette renovation. There's 20K for the library office creation. They're creating an office in the out of the foyer. And the library roof is 86K. Parks and Rec is requesting a 12-seat van. There was a discussion in capital budget, and they've been asked to, if possible, purchase an electric vehicle, and they have requested 70,000 for that. And then there's 75K requested for the flooring replacement at Chickering, which is, I think, the completion of the project to replace the flooring at the school. So,
Woody, can I ask a couple of questions?
sure.
I feel like maybe I missed it, but on some of the capital, well, two things. A couple of these seem like this is the first time I'm hearing about them. I don't know, but were they all itemized when we met with capital budgets?
I believe they were all on the list at the time we met with capital budget, particularly at the time Robin presented.
I guess I don't remember a van, an electric van that you just mentioned, or
So they had a van. capital budget has requested them to make it an electric vehicle,
They were
so-
there.
but the
They,
amount
they
of
were
mon-
there? Okay.
Yeah, I
amount of-
have
all-
the
yeah,
All of these were on there, like the radios and stuff like that?
Yeah,
yeah, they are.
Kevin, you can open the capital budget presentation. It's in the shared drive. I just quickly opened it to compare it to follow along.
Okay,
So it's
okay.
right in the shared drive if you want it under FY26
Okay.
open hearing, I think.
All right. And then the other thing is, I don't feel like we ever got an answer back on like leasing some of those Department of Public Works vehicles versus buying.
So, Cam, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, there was some discussion of it, and basically from the financing perspective, it just wasn't worth it. The town has, the trouble is with government purchases, the whole rigmarole of organizing such leases ends up in them being more expensive than just purchasing them outright.
Okay.
Yeah, there was some
Robin,
explanation. Yeah, there was some
Yeah.
explanation in the fact that we have like such a good rating. If we need to even like borrow money to pay for these purchases, will make more sense than the usual rate for leases that not necessarily get impacted by our great credit history.
Yeah, thanks,
kind of-
Simona. That's right.
I see.
Uh,
Okay.
And Robin did address that when she was presenting that, I think, at open meeting, right?
Okay.
Do we get any money back from selling the old equipment, or is it? I mean,
Yes, we do. There's trade in, and they sort of include that in the total estimate. So, for example, the mowers at the cemetery, they're actually trading in 2 mowers and getting one because they're using them more efficiently across multiple departments now that they're under DPW.
and like the fire engines, do those have any value? I know they're old, but they still are full of metal. Is there any?
Yeah, I mean they try and get whatever money they can for them.
But it's not baked. It's a separate line somewhere. Yeah.
Well, it would end up being free cash if they got it because they don't budget for it in advance.
That's what I'm asking. Thanks for. Okay, got it.
The trade-in, for example, on the Parks and Rec van, it's replacing a Ford Explorer from 2014. The book value is about $5,000. That would have gone to help defray the expenses, but apparently that vehicle is no longer functional. So it's they're unlikely to get anything in trade-in on it. And the some of the things like the 6-wheel dump truck with plow and spreader, it's replacing a 35-year-old vehicle. So they may get something for it, but they're not going to get very much. Okay, any other questions or discussion?
And one of the things
I-
about the van again, that's the cost of an electric van?
That's the cost of a van. The electric van, at least that I've been able to identify, costs about the same as conventional vans. It's still unclear if they can get an electric vehicle. The capital budget would like them to start adding electric vehicles into the fleet. There's been a certain amount of reluctance on the part of many of the town departments to electrify. I think the feeling is that where there's an opportunity, they should take advantage of it. And this van is going to be used primarily shuttling kids around town, taking people on local excursions, that sort of thing, potentially taking Council on Aging participants to various functions or shopping and that sort of thing. So it'll mostly be relatively local trips, which seems ideal for an electric vehicle.
So out of curiosity, since we are talking about this, so when we purchase, when it's time to purchase the van, do we open like a bid for that? Is that how it works, or are we gonna just go like to Mercedes and say, I want this, and there you go?
They seek quotes for them, and even if, for example, you go to Mercedes, you can go to multiple different dealers to get the better price.
So there is like some sort of a bid.
The bidding is actually pretty complicated. I didn't know this, but there was I don't know if this came up at our meetings or just at capital budget, but there's been some discussion as to whether the Carroll House roof needs to be replaced. It's been leaking. In the discussing that and some of the other kind of townhouse library requests, Carl Warrant pointed out that it's very difficult to actually get a concrete bid in before town meeting, because you don't have the money and there's no guarantee you'll have the money, and the companies don't want to go through the vendors don't want to go through the effort of doing a formal bid without a guarantee that you're actually going to pursue the project. So frequently end up having to get an actual bid after town meeting has authorized the money. So you need some kind of estimate in advance. So the whole process is more cumbersome than you would like.
Which unfortunately doesn't benefit us, because if they know what we approved, then they can bid higher than they would if it would be pre-approved.
Right. Okay.
They're also competing with others, so it's not quite as simple as that.
Yeah.
So
Article 5, what we're voting on is appropriate the FY 2026 capital budget to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate from available funds, borrow, or any combination of these methods, a sum of money for the various capital purposes listed below, to determine whether the money shall be included in the tax levy, transferred from available funds, borrowed, or provided by any combination of these methods, or take any other action relative thereto. So I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Great. And a second?
Second.
Great. Mish?
Yes.
Cam?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Simone?
yes,
Marty?
Yes.
Janet? Is Janet still on?
No, it looks like she's gone.
Like she's off. Okay, and then and I vote affirmatively, so that's 6-0.
I got to say that would have been much more difficult conversation if Fuel Island was on there.
It would have been substantially more difficult. I don't relish that next year. Okay. So we're not going to do Article 6. That's the turf field. We'll hopefully wait for the final approval of the the opening of the bids on Thursday, and then if it's as expected, we'll be voting on about $880,000. Hopefully the bids come in below that. Okay.
Do we know when Sherburne's voting on the turf fields?
They voted on Saturday, I believe, or at least the advisory committee did.
Yeah, the advisory committee voted Saturday, and I have not heard from Dan what they voted. We did hear that capital budget in Sherburne voted affirmatively, 3-0, suggesting things are looking pretty good for it. So I'm gonna have to skip now. Go down to 16 and 17, which are Establish and authorize, 16 is establish and authorize an amount for revolving fund for the cemetery commission. To see if the town will vote to amend section 516 finances of the general bylaws of the town of Dover entitled Departmental Revolving Funds for the purpose of establishing a new revolving fund in section 516E is shown in the document on file in the office of the town clerk and as follows. And there, the table is the revolving fund will be cemetery commission, fees and charges received from weekend and after hour burials, columbarium related fees and charges, expenses payable from the fund or cost for weekend and after hour burials, columbarium related expenses. For use in the town pursuant to chapter 44, section 53E and a half of the Massachusetts general laws, and further that non-substantive changes in the numbering of this bylaw be permitted in order that it be in compliance with the numbering format of the Dover Town Code. And further to see if the town will vote pursuant to authorize the use of this revolving fund account for the cemetery commission, and that unless otherwise amended by the Board of Selectmen and Warrant Committee, such account shall not exceed $30,000 for fiscal year 2026 or take any other action relative thereto. So any discussion of Article 16?
I know they were talking about the columbarium at the open hearing. Is that something new that's being added, or or is that something we've always had and it's just they're handling it differently?
I actually do not know the answer to that. Anybody know? All right, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Marty. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Simon.
Great. Mish,
Yes.
Cam,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Marty,
Yes.
Simone.
Yes.
I think, and I'm an aye, so that's again 6-0. Okay, next one is Article 17. Establish and authorize the amount for revolving fund for stormwater tree mitigation. To see if the town will vote to amend section 516 finances of the general bylaws of the town of Dover entitled Departmental Revolving Funds for the purpose of establishing a new revolving fund in section 516E as shown in the document on file in the office of the town clerk and as follows. Insert the following row in the table: stormwater mitigation. The department is the Board of Selectmen. Fees and mitigation payments under the regulations for stormwater management and erosion control. Expenses payable from the fund, town stormwater mitigation improvements, including planting and maintenance of trees and stormwater regulatory compliance. Excuse me, for use in town pursuant to chapter 44, section 53E, 1/2 of the Massachusetts general laws, and further that non-substantive changes in the numbering of this bylaw be permitted in order that it be in compliance with the numbering format of the Dover Town Code. And further to see if the town will vote to authorize use of this revolving fund account for the community center, and that unless otherwise amended by the Board of Selectmen and Warrant Committee, such account shall not exceed $30,000 for fiscal year 2026 or take any other action relative thereto. Any discussion?
I'm sorry, how do they generate revenue? Like,
So I think there are charges for consulting on, for the resident / developer around the best way to manage stormwater mitigation. This was it's worth going back to 2024 and reading the stormwater mitigation bylaw. It's really complicated.
Oh, so this is just creating, this is creating a revolving fund for that past thing that was proved.
The revolving fund to support those activities.
Okay,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, okay.
Well,
And why does
stormwater mitigation.
the community center need to be especially added in, as opposed to any other building?
My understanding of this was that they need to do some or they're going to do some planting around the community center as part of the stormwater mitigation, and that the community center, because of its own funding, is a bit complicated.
Yep, that's right. I remember Robin talking about this. Yeah.
I'm not certain I did that correctly, but that was what I understood.
Okay.
So a motion to approve.
Motion.
Thank you, Cam. Second.
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 Great. I got Mark. So Mish,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Marty,
Yes.
Simone,
Yes.
and Cam.
Yes.
Great. So, and I vote aye. So that's 6-0 again. And that takes us to the planning board articles. So we all heard these at open hearing and heard Carol explain them. None of them seemed all that controversial, although the there may be some debate about the 30 to 60 day change. So I'll start with Article 19, modification to the floodplain district, section 185-44 of the zoning bylaws, to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaw by updating section 185-44 floodplain district in order to comply with National Flood Insurance Program requirements, to update Dover's local regulations zoning to include the new effective dates for the FIRM and FIS, or take any other action relative thereto. Any discussion? Seems relatively straightforward. This is necessary for people in flood plain districts to be able to get flood insurance. So a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thanks, Marty. A second.
Second.
Thank you. Yeah. Kevin,
Yes.
Marty,
Yes.
Simone,
Yes.
Cam,
Yes.
Mish,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Great. Article 20, modification of various clarifying administrative edits to the zoning bylaws, section 185 of the zoning bylaws, to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaw by updating various sections of chapter 185 zoning bylaws, including 185-17, schedule of dimensional requirements, to add an asterisk in the schedule of dimensional requirements table that will draw attention to section 116-3 stormwater bylaw, an asterisk that will draw attention to section 116-3 stormwater bylaw, and a footnote to highlight section 185-25B. Accessory structures require half the setback, as well as 185-47D, violation and enforcement, raise enforcement to $300, currently $100. This is for any and all zoning violations. And 185-5, definitions, to define small family daycare and large family daycare, or take any other action relative thereto. This is just housekeeping. A lot of it has to do with the stormwater bylaw, which apparently had repercussions throughout the entire zoning set of zoning bylaws. Any discussion? Great, we're on a roll here.
Motion.
Thanks. Second,
Second.
great. Marty,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Cam,
Yes.
Mish,
Yes.
and Simone.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So again, 6-0. Article 21 is modification to accessory dwelling units, section 185-43 of the zoning bylaws. To see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaw by updating section 185-43 accessory dwelling units to comply with the Affordable Homes Act, signed into law by the governor on August 6, 2024, and the final version of the 760 CMR 71.00 by removing requirements for special permit / discretionary approval for detached ADUs, removing owner-occupied restrictions, removing unenforceable design guidelines, and updating schedule of use regulations to reflect this change, or take any other action relative thereto. This is simply to put us in compliance with the new state law around ADUs, which has fewer restrictions than our original bylaw did. Any discussion? Marty, you make a move to approve?
Yeah. If there's no discussion, I'd move for approval.
Okay,
Second.
great. Thank you, Simone. Mish,
Yes.
Cam,
Yes.
Evan,
Yes.
Marty,
Yes.
and Simone,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Great. So I'm not sure what Tom's citizens petition does to Article 22, but I think we should vote on it regardless of what happens with his citizens petition. Article 22 is modification to site plan review, section 185-36 of the zoning bylaws, to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaw by updating section 185-36 site plan review to extend the timeline to issue a decision under site plan review from 30 days to 60 days due to the level of detail required for review and the schedule of meetings of the planning board, or take any other action relative to thereto. Discussion.
I'm more curious than anything else. One, to see if, like, how Tom's petition will influence this, because I think there's probably, it could be the main reason to increase the time, since they realize that this should have happened in 23 years and now are trying to make it happen. Having said that, it's kind of funny that somehow contradicts what we are putting money to get everything digitalized on the building side. So one side we are trying to expedite on the building permit, and then holding the same way with the planning site review. So for me, it just doesn't make much sense. It feels like that the town is fighting against each other.
Other comments?
Yeah, I also feel like in the spirit of maybe the bigger picture, you know, the town is here to serve the citizens. So I'm kind of opposed to extending approval timelines versus decreasing them. So I'm not so sure if I would want to allow that to happen. And also what Simone's saying is I'm not sure if most of the docket on these planning board committees are for these you know, accessory units, which if that goes away, they might have an easier time complying.
Yeah, I think that's right, because when Tom's petition would make fewer things come before the zoning board, so wouldn't that take quite a bit off of their plate in terms of review?
It would seem that's true. It would seem, I mean, I don't know numbers wise, but when I've listened to planning board meetings, I would say the vast majority of the discussion is around site plan review these days. Often contentious discussions around site plan review. So I know Carol wanted to have the planning board weigh in on Tom's petition.
Perhaps we could defer it until we should weigh in, and we can ask them questions about this as well.
I think that makes sense. We could vote on it Wednesday night. By then, we should. They promised they would get their discussion and talking points on Tom's petition to us tomorrow. So once I get something from Carol, I'll distribute it, and we can anticipate having a discussion of both that and this on Wednesday night.
I think they're meeting right now, right?
They
Yeah.
are meeting right now.
Yeah.
And Dave Haviland may join us at some point. I don't know if he's going to make it. He's attending the planning board meeting right now. Okay, so we'll table that for now and go on to Article 23, trail easements. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire by gift, eminent domain, or otherwise, and to accept a deed or deeds of easement interest for the following easements on such terms and conditions as the Board of Selectmen may determine, and in final locations as the Board of Selectmen may determine. That certain 10-foot wide bridle path easement being shown as a proposed 10-foot wide bridle path easement on a plan entitled Lot Layout Key Plan Bar K, the state's definitive subdivision plan of land in Dover and Westwood, dated October 22nd, 1991, recorded with the Norfolk Registry of Deeds as Plan 306 of 1992, and is described more fully in a bridle path easement to the inhabitants of the town of Dover, recorded with the Norfolk Registry of Deeds at Book 9329, page 596. And two, that certain bridle path easement, utility easement, and maintenance easement described in a certificate of action, definite plan modification approved Wilson's Way subdivision, Dover, Massachusetts, dated September 25th, 2017, and recorded with the Norfolk Registry of Deeds at Book 35665, page 202, or take any other action thereto. So this is
He's the poor Warrant Committee member that's got to read that out to the town meeting.
Oh,
Nish, you have this, don't you?
yeah. Wait, I was going to say, I understand this, but I didn't realize we have to read these out in the town meeting. Is that true?
We
Yeah.
all get allocated one at the town meeting, or one or more, depending on how many articles there are.
They anticipate that this one is going to have some pushback at the meeting, not because of the actual substance, but just the sort of reaction to anything to do with easements and things like that. So I know they anticipate some concern over this one, but as I understand it, they're just trying to. These have already been declared easements, but right now they're held. The control of them is held at the planning board level, and they don't. And so a different planning board could get rid of them, and they want to make sure that they're sort of more permanently, or they want to make them more permanently maintained, so that it would take a town meeting to overturn the easement as opposed to just a planning board vote.
Yes.
And they're practically existing easements anyway. I don't think there's been a lot of contention about them. It's just they want to get the bylaws sorted out so they're complete.
Yeah, I think both.
Sort of protecting them, yeah.
But both these easements are used quite a bit by the horseback riders. So,
right.
Any other discussion? If not, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
All right, second.
Second.
Great. Simone.
Yes.
Marty.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Cam.
Yes.
Mish.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So, I think we should vote on Article 29 and then hopefully have a brief, spirited but brief discussion of Article 30.
Oh,
So Article 29 is accept Wilson's Way as a public way, a citizen's petition to see if the town will vote to accept Wilson's Way as an accepted public way as laid out by the Board of Selectmen as shown on the plans in file in the office of the town clerk or take any other action relative thereto. As you know, the residents of Wilson's Way who initiated this petition had a hard time finding exactly what they needed to do in order to get the town to accept the private way. Some of the process has been clarified. I think they're in a much better place, and they would like to withdraw this petition with the hope that they can submit next year, depending on kind of what the ruling is about whether they meet the requirements. So
And Woody, I just want to add one other thing. Because I was working with this, but to your point, I don't know if who would own something like this suggestion, but or maybe we have it, but I almost picture like a workflow map to like it was very difficult for them to even understand what to do, right? And I have a feeling that there might be other processes that citizens might not know which way to turn or who to contact first, but it would be great if we could come up with some kind of a clarifying document, like, when you say like, start here and, if approved, move here, and if not approved, do this, so there's something to walk through, so that it would clarify how to navigate the bureaucracy of Dover, the vast bureaucracy of Dover.
well, I couldn't agree more. When I read this petition, I tried to look up the information myself on the town
Yeah.
web,
Yeah,
and I couldn't find it.
right.
So, and I'm probably as used to navigating this stuff as almost any other resident would be. So it feels as though it's more opaque than it ought to be.
Yeah,
Do you think you're right that something like some frequently asked questions or something like that could then link to a flow chart or a list of requirements would make sense, at least to tell people at what the first step is.
yeah,
I think my learning process with the citizens petition, it just showed me that I feel like, to your point about like a FAQ, or maybe some sort of like, in the past we had like those roles of ombudsman, someone that would be just like advocating on behalf of the customer. Like I feel like we need someone or a place like this in Dover to make sure that we don't get lost in the system, because ultimately my perception right now is that if you don't know what to do, go to Felicia. But if Felicia leaves tomorrow, we are all screwed. We are all screwed.
I couldn't agree more.
So-
That's what I do.
Yeah. It's
That's
like,
what we all
because
do. You're right.
if like literally, if she doesn't know, I think we are screwed.
Yeah.
It's like I can't figure it out what to do if it's not through her.
So-
Maybe what we could do is pass a motion to the effect that, okay, we acknowledge that the petition has been withdrawn, but that we recommend to town administration to come up with a much clearer description of the steps the petitioners have to go through to accomplish this process.
yeah, that's a good idea.
yeah. It's not just the process though of citizen petition. I'm talking about,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, like,
Mhm.
No, this is for the process for accepting private roads as town roads, essentially. And
yes.
basically what that does is it transfers the costs of maintenance of those roads and the drains and all the rest to the town from
Sure.
those private citizens. So they've got a pecuniary interest in this, and so they want to make it happen. The town perhaps tends to be a little bit slow on it because they know it's going to add additional cost to us. But I still think we should get clarification as exactly what has to be done to get a private road acknowledged as a public road.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I noticed
think
that there's
even
a big
Oh,
gate.
go ahead, Mitch.
There's a big gate at the base of Wilson's Way, and I was wondering if there were any other roads, public roads in town that that are gate closable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's probably part of the process to agree to remove the gates and things like that to make it a public way rather than a gated community.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
think
I
that
mean,
even like,
or go ahead.
sorry, Kevin. No, I just want to say, like, following your suggestion, for me, is like, even if this is the last private road in Dover for now, right? We should have like a repository of, you know, if this comes up, this is the process. Even if it's the likelihood to happen again, it's all close to zero. But at least there's like you know, like some sort of like a library of solving problems for citizens, something like this.
My belief,
would make
Simone,
life
is, and I might be wrong here, my belief is that this comes up fairly regularly because what happens is a developer develops a sort of sub
Mhm.
you know, series of houses and whatever, puts a road in and everything, and only after that do they sort of then go to the town and say, hey, we've got a road here, what are you going to do about it? And so that happens pretty frequently as far as I can tell.
Yeah, no, and that's why I'm saying, like, if this would be the last one, which probably, to your point, will not be the last one, at least we, you know, people would know what to do if something comes up, if
Mhm.
development comes. I think for me is just like removing the perception that this is like a Pandora box that, you know, God knows what's going to come out of this discussion, to, hey, this is what needs to happen. And either we like it or not, there is a process in place, right?
Right.
So,
I guess I'm thinking of a more comprehensive document though, that would, or flow chart, you know, hey, if you want to, you know, you want to redo your bathroom here, you know, here's the flow of committees or, you know, departments you're going to come in contact with in the expected timeline. You want to put up a pool house.
Kevin, you're
you know.
complaining about the bureaucracy, and now you're going to want an enormous amount of bureaucracy to define all these steps. I'm a little bit worried about that.
It just seems like I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of guessing going on for who to contact first in different situations.
yeah, I do think I do think there's some motivation within the townhouse to improve both the online kind of accessibility of the town,
Mhm.
as well as improve the service aspect of the town.
Right.
You know, we're some of what we're encountering is a lack of IT support that has been present for, you know, at least 6 years, as well as you know, inadequate staffing in the town administrators bailiwick. So it feels as though the motivation may be there, but I agree that it makes sense for us to make clear that we have some concerns about information accessibility.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Cam, do you want to, how would you make the motion then?
I thought I'd already suggested a framework and now I've forgotten how to say it. That we acknowledge the intent for this warrant article to be withdrawn, but note or the request that the town administration consider coming up with ways to make it much more transparent for petitioners to follow appropriate steps to secure their petitions for making private ways public ways, something like that.
Yep.
I can actually read what you said before on the closed caption.
Oh, thank you.
You said maybe what we could do is pass a motion to the effect that we acknowledge that the petition has been withdrawn, but that we recommend to town administration to come up with a much clearer description of the steps that petitioners have to go through to accomplish this process.
Great.
Excellent. That sounds better than my second attempt.
So Cam's made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second,
All right. Mish,
Yes.
Marty,
Yes.
Simone,
yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Cam,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Great. Okay, now the highlight of the night.
And by the way, would FYI, Dave has joined as a not participant, is like listening.
Okay.
At least I saw that his name is on the list now.
Yes, thank you. I just promoted him to panelist so that he can put in his 2 cents as well. Great. Okay, so
Thank you, Simone.
You're welcome, Dave.
I think we're all aware of Article 29 or Article 30. Design a sidewalk on Cross Street, citizens petition to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds a sum of money to design a sidewalk on Cross Street from the intersections of Cross Street and Center Street to Chickering Elementary School. So I'm going to open this for discussion. Simone, do you want to go first?
Sure. I think the important piece for me here is just first to share what I've learned through the several conversations that I had, because I think that this helped me to understand the ask and how we could take from here. So to start with, as you all know, this is the 3rd year that this petition comes forward. The previous 2 years, it was not necessarily the appropriate approach to the process itself, but the process is not also very clear and easy to follow. So having said that, this time it's kind of like seems to be checking the boxes from a process standpoint. Second, when I spoke with Chief Vinci, one thing that came from my conversation with him, with Kevin McCabe, and few other folks, like random conversations, is that this approach as requested in this petition doesn't solve the problem that has been raised by other people interested in finding a solution for the Chickering area and the safety of kids. So the partial solution, as this could be described, it could actually create more chaos and still not solve the question that has been raised then by other parents and other people who are supportive. That is, let's protect the children. And we had, near misses situation with parents walking kids and concerned that they would be hit by a car during school hours. So having said that, there's also the planning board guidelines for sidewalk that was issued in 2008. And some of the points, for those of you who had never seen this guideline before, it's basically a guideline that says who in Dover can have sidewalk and, under which conditions. And basically the overall approach is it has to be for the safety of the children and the elderly, near schools and connect schools with the town center, which basically check every single box if you think about Chickering not having a sidewalk. Yet, because Chickering is on Cross Street and Cross Street is considered a scenic route, the planning board would need to be consulted and decide if they want to remove trees or stones from the stone walls and things like that that could create an impact on a scenic route, the planning board should be also consulted and weighted on this decision. So having said that, after a lot of conversations, for me, the way that it is written, we just don't have, we are not doing any, like we are not bringing the benefit that other people expect. I think this for me becomes a little bit of what we were discussing. What was the article that we just decided to put on hold? The 22, whatever. We need more information on, you know, if this was discussed with the planning board. We haven't heard. I know that Woody asked their opinion about this situation. I think it's a much broader issue to be addressed than a petition as it's written right now.
Other discussion?
Yeah, Simone, I just wanted to be clear, just on the one point you raised, because that was so interesting, the way you framed that out. Chickering, just because we back on to Chickering is connected. This doesn't help. The sidewalk wouldn't connect Chickering to the center of town because there already is a path, a paved path that connects Chickering to Dedham Street. Then that's how every child walks to the center of town or goes to the library or goes to whatever. You would never, a kid wouldn't go out cross street to come center street to go to the center of town. That would be going a much longer amount, much further away. So it doesn't take, there already is a paved path that way.
So what we have to keep in mind, and this is like my perception after all the conversations, right, is that what is in question here is how people can walk on Cross Street to get to Chickering, not how kids can go from Chickering to downtown.
Right.
And the devil is on the details here, right? Because a resident of Cross Street bringing their kids to Chickering can be hit by a car, and it doesn't really matter that there is a path that goes from Chickering to Dedham. I'm just saying, like,
but there are paths that connect. Oh, go ahead.
The problem I have with that approach is that putting a path from the Chickering to Center Street, I don't even know if there's any children that live along that area, that side, this side of that street. So how do they get across the street if they live on the other side of the street? And what if it's in the other direction, towards Dedham Street? There's no support for that. It's purely just to get to that corner. And the only advantage I can see of moving it to that corner is that it simplifies the process from getting from the school to Mr. Guerin's playgroups.
Yeah, no, that and
so I'm pretty skeptical of all of that. But let me suggest one other thing before I hand over. My suggestion is that it is a serious question. The safety of children and access to schools is a serious question, but it shouldn't be done on an ad hoc basis by individual petitioners trying to just serve their own convenience, which is what I truly think this is. It should be done on a town basis. And there was that village plan that actually suggested footpaths right along Cross Street. And I think we could probably do a similar motion to say, we think that in this case, my recommendation is we don't accept this, but we don't recommend this petition because it is only a very narrow solution to potentially a broader problem. And we get the town to consider the broader issue of footpaths in the town centre, and particularly in relation to the schools, and leave it at that.
Yeah, but that's exactly what I was trying to add. Like, I think
okay.
My view on this is the petition itself doesn't solve any problem. What this petition did is to raise a much broader problem, which is the safety of children around Chickering, or safety of people around Chickering, because it's not coming from a kid only. It came from a father who said, I was walking my kids and it was a near miss. So we have a broader concern to address that through this petition, it will not be solved. And if it's to build a sidewalk on one side of the road or on both sides of the road and the whole extension of Cross Street, the reality is Cross Street, because of the traffic of the school, can be considered a safety issue, particularly during school hours, drop off and pick up, when you have more traffic there. But that's it. So personally, as an individual of the Warrant Committee, I am not in support of this petition. Now, having said that, my recommendation is, to Cam's point, is to create some sort of like group, or if it's going to be led by the planning board or by DPW or by the police, I don't know. It's a combination of people that should come together and evaluate if we have missed something that can be important, particularly now that the community center will be open and we expect more children to walk towards the community center. Will that be just through the beaten path to Dedham Street? I don't know. Because again, it doesn't solve the problem for people who walk on Cross the Street. It solved the problem from kids inside Chickering, walking outside Chickering, but not for pedestrians walking on Cross the Street during school hours.
Dave, could you make a comment? Oh, it looks like you want to make a comment anyway. Because I'd be interested in your perception of how this could be more generally treated, rather than in this very narrow approach of this petition.
Well, I'm not gonna steal the planning board's thunder, because that's unfair to Carol and the planning board. But I will say that they think that the 2008 sidewalk guideline needs a lot of work and needs to be revised, because there's evidently a lot of issues with it from their standpoint. But one of the things I just wanted to, with this specific, is we've been trying to drill down to facts instead of going to opinions. One, we understand that there is a path to Most Precious Blood through the woods, because the properties abut each other. And there is a path that the kids use, so they're not going to use the sidewalk even if we built it, because kids are going to go the shortest route, and that is walking through that path directly to the church. Another issue is the law of unintended consequence. Having adults walk through a school property in today's world is very much ill-advised. We do not want to funnel non-school children or school-related activities and adults through the Chickering property. Another fact which is interesting is, even if we were to install a sidewalk on the entire length of Cross Street, the Center Street sidewalk ends at the end of the Chickering Fields. So there would be no connection from Chickering Fields all the way around past Mill Street, or Mill Farm rather, up into the Willow and Cross section. So it would be a sidewalk to nowhere. And no adult and no child could use it, unless now we're talking about a sidewalk all on Cross Street, as well as connecting it on Dedham Street. So that's there. And then the other one is just cost. It's very easy to say, oh, let's approve a $23,000 study. But what we're talking about in terms of the actual building of the sidewalk would involve, in all likelihood, several $100,000. Likely property takings, where we're going to have a town meeting vote to take the property, and then compensate the people we took the land from. And we all know what that order of magnitude cost is going to be. And all of this, and then a lot of significant trees on a scenic road are going to have to be cut down. So there's a lot of the core values that Dover has maintained that would be violated by putting in the sidewalk. And I just thought that was interesting, but now I've completely forgotten what you wanted me to opine on, Cam. Sorry, I wanted to spit all that out.
I think you've opined pretty well, Dave. I think you've made a number of very effective points there.
So I think, as I understand this, there are two distinct issues. One is Rick's petition, which I think the general sense is that it doesn't answer or doesn't deal with the problem that we were presented with at open hearing, and seems no better formed in a way than it was when he presented it each of the last 2 years. But I would separate that, if you will, from the issue that was raised at open hearing, which was the concern of a number of parents, or at least several parents, that it was dangerous for them to walk their kids to school. It feels as though the town ought to have a mechanism to address that concern. And I don't know whether the best mechanism is reconsideration of the planning board's plan for center of town in terms of kind of paths, or ad hoc committee or an advisory committee formed of Kevin McCabe, the police chief, some parents, some people from the school to address the specific issue of children's safety around Chickering. There are many different ways to approach that issue that don't necessarily result in a sidewalk being built. You might have speed bumps. You might direct traffic one way during the time kids are being dropped off. You might station a police officer, more specifically around the area that kids are walking. I don't think that's our purview to decide. It feels as though my own bias anyway is that I would be inclined to vote down or vote against Rick's petition, but I would like to see the town encouraged to address the problem that the parents are raising and to take that seriously. I don't think the planning board is necessarily the way to address that. It doesn't feel as though they've taken this process or this problem seriously each of the last 2 years. And it feels as though the chief of police and Kevin have an expertise that ought to be drawn in on something like this. There may be no solution that's satisfactory to everyone. I'm perfectly willing to admit that. But I think as a warrant committee, we can at least encourage the town to address the concerns of the parents.
Woody, there may be a very simple and elegant solution to the safety issue, which is every single school bus will drive by these children. And if they wish, we will ask a school bus to stop, pick them up. And even though they're being driven yards, that's what every other child in Dover has happen. And another little factoid is one of the parents who stood up and asked for the sidewalk lived directly across from this Chickering driveway. So even if we built the sidewalk, they wouldn't set foot on it. They would walk right up the driveway.
Well, I don't think the parents who spoke were asking for the sidewalk, at least in my conversations with them. That's what they're asking for, is the town to address the problem.
Yes, and that we agreed. But I think it's asking a school bus to stop would do it.
Well, that's perfectly true. Or possible. Just feels that a group of people should be gotten together who have the expertise and the concerns to address this. I will tell you honestly, I don't think Dover as a town has done very well on this kind of problem in the past. So it's been we have different leadership both in the police department and in DPW now than we did a few years ago, but it was hard to get people to do much in the past. But we're a different town now, and it feels as though, as the warrant committee, we can at least express our concern that we heard from the parents at open hearing.
I think that's perfectly acceptable and a wonderful idea, because what you're asking the town to do is to review the safety procedures and find out what can be done to protect the children.
Right.
That's very different than what's being proposed.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm not, I personally am not in support of Rick's petition. I don't think it, I haven't thought in the past and don't feel now that it addresses the concerns that other people have, and seems specifically targeted to his own personal situation, which is, you know, I don't think citizens petitions are a great way to plan for a town, to do planning for a town. So, I think it's great that we have the opportunity to do that, but feels like this problem could be dealt with in a different way. Simone?
Yeah, what I want to add, it's you know, like the last email that Rick sent saying that he wants to, you know, spread the word if we don't support the petition and so on. That actually made me think about something that he told me when I met with him, because officially what he's asking is the money to do the study design, right? So the estimate cost of this is $20,000 to $23,000, and he actually said that he could raise this money. So for me, one, it would be wasting money in any form or shape, either, you know, if we were to support the petition or if he wants to raise the money. But we also can add to the recommendation that if he is willing to invest the money to do the study design that he wants, as he said he would, that he can do that. There's nothing that would, you know, that we would, as a town, prohibit the study design to happen, but it's not what we believe as the Warrant Committee that would be actually addressing the safety of children in town. That requires a broader view of.
I think allowing a
that could be.
private person to come up with a design of a street safety facilities is really opening a can of worms, and I would be opposed to that.
Well, I think the what I am concerned right now is, you know, how, because now that we know that there is a planning board guideline, that we have people who stood up, not only Rick, but, you know, the 22 people who signed his petition, and plus the parents that went to the open hearing. If God forbid something happens between today and the next opportunity after the town meeting, you know, we can get in. Can we get in trouble as a town? Like, can we be sued because something happened and we did nothing? Like, for me, that's a question that I have.
I thought we were recommending doing something to get
No,
the
but that's
town
what
to
I'm
consider
saying.
alternative solutions. But to
No.
propose, to say it's great if he decides to do his own design work, I think is just a real can of worms, and I wouldn't want to have anything to do with it.
I don't mind. I'm just saying that he, you know, he came up with the state that he could raise $20,000. I mean, it's not my money if he wants to raise $20,000 and spend on something. I am saying this without knowing if it would be possible, you know, reasonable, allowed. I'm just bringing up the fact that he said that he could raise the money. So if he could raise the money, I don't even understand why he keeps coming for, like, to ask for this to happen in this way. But having said that, for me, it's more important that we are committed to have a plan in place to address the concerns that the parents brought up to our attention, independently of the petition. Like, for me, the petition is completely separated now from the discussion that and the concerns that were raised by parents. That's all.
I'm going to suggest we vote in two parts then. So I'm going to suggest that we vote on Rick's petition, And then we vote on a statement urging the town to form a task force to address safety concerns regarding pedestrian traffic around Chickering School.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so then I need someone to, I know this hurts, but I need someone to move the petition to see if the town will vote to to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of money to design a sidewalk on Cross Street from the intersections of Cross Street and Center Street to Chickering Elementary School. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Cam. Second.
Second.
Great. Simone. Cam?
No.
No. Kevin?
No.
Simone?
No.
Me?
No.
Marty?
No.
And I'm a no. So that's so we are going to recommend negative town vote down this petition, and then a second paragraph to accompany that would be that we would encourage the town to create a task force, including at least representatives from the police and DPW, as well as the school, to address safety concerns regarding pedestrian traffic around Chickering School.
Can I ask a
Motion.
question about that, Woody?
Oh,
Just, do you want to make it more holistic? Like, in other words, just, the safety, like, because I don't know if this should if there should be like a safety study beyond just Chickering and Cross Street, or you just want to limit it to just that?
well, I would, because of the way the petition is phrased and the kind of emotion around this, I would limit it to just that. I would personally love to see the town and the planning board be more proactive about the town center plan, particularly in light of the movement towards creating the rail trail and a variety of other things that are going to impact kind of pedestrian traffic around town. So it feels as though this is a good time to look holistically at pedestrian traffic. I think as far as this petition and our role, I would simply encourage the town to address the concern about pedestrian traffic around pedestrian safety around Chickering School.
Okay.
That's my
Cam,
personal.
Woody, Cam had mentioned or Cam, you had mentioned the the village plan.
Mhm.
How is this? Were you suggesting that this could be somehow addressed within the framework of that village study?
It would seem it could, because the village study did propose crosswalks along Cross Street. But I sort of agree with Woody that we should keep it fairly narrow to address this petition. But I would be a little concerned, Woody, of saying it should at least include the police and somebody else. I don't think we're well equipped to decide who should be a member of such a task force.
That's fine with me. So drop that and simply ask that the town address this by a task force or some other mechanism
Mm-hmm.
To address pedestrian safety concerns around Chickering School.
Mm-hmm.
Can I suggest one thing? Just to ask the town, it feels very vague. Like, can we actually point specific group in the town that will lead this initiative to create the task force?
No, we don't have any authority to make such requirements.
No, we are not. I'm not
all we
making
can
a
do is
requirement.
make a recommend that the town take it up and
That-
consider it in the way they see fit.
Yeah,
I don't think any more than that is
It's-
within our purview.
I'm not asking to make a requirement. I'm just asking to make a recommendation that a specific department of the town would lead the task force. So at least we know where we would like, then we go back to the first point that Kevin raised, is like, oh, very confused to get like a petition and know where you have to go. If someone wants to start this tomorrow, who's going to start?
I think you
Dave,
just
have you got
drop
any
it right
thoughts
on
on
the
that?
Board of Selectmen and say, we ask that the Board of Selectmen appoint an
There you
appropriate
go.
committee to address the safety concerns.
Yep.
Yep, that's my point.
Led by Rick.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, see, it's easy. Just put it on someone else. So.
There you go.
Okay, I'm not sure I have the wording exactly, but we further encourage the Board of Selectmen to create a committee to address pedestrian safety concerns around Chickering School.
There you
There
go.
you go.
All right, great. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Great. A second.
Second.
Great. Thanks, Marty. Simone,
Yes.
Mish,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Marty,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Great.
Well, I
Well,
think we ended up really in a great position. We didn't draw knives at each other, and it was a very pleasant conversation. So.
Yeah.
we may have knives sticking in our backs from the planning board or from the residents of Cross Street, but that's okay.
We formed a committee with all great governing. bodies, too.
The
Is
old
that evil I hear?
Elton is our committee forming another committee. Okay, we're gonna meet again Wednesday, so I'm gonna ask for a motion to adjourn
Don't
Motion to
move.
adjourn.
and a second.
Second.
Kevin,
Yes.
Marty,
Yes.
Nish,
Yes.
Cam,
Yes.
Simone.
Yes.
The last thing I just want to mention is, for those of you who haven't started to think or act on your write-ups, the deadline for our submission of the Blue Book to the printer is April 2nd. That is not that far away. So,
Could I suggest, Woody, that we put a copy of the warrant up on the drive, and the people put in their commentaries in exactly straight into the underneath the articles, because that's and we could also then quickly put in our vote and recommendations, and then it's done. It makes it a lot easier.
that's a great idea. So I'll do that tomorrow.
So it'll
Thank
be like
you.
it'll be like a Google Doc.
A Google Doc, yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds
Or
good.
actually, it's the printer wants it as a Word doc, so I think I'll just post it as a Word doc.
And you can put it in review mode, so
Yeah.
the changes that people have done are marked, and that works just as well.
All right, great. Okay, see you Wednesday night.
I will not be there. See you
You
guys.
will-
Oh.
All right. Thanks very much.
Good night,
Thank you.
everyone.